Okay. All right. Well, welcome to another movie review stream. My name is Mark McPherson, film critic for movieswithmark.com. It is Memorial Day. We're getting close to the end of May. So, of course, we got summer movie season already starting right now. It probably started about a month ago, but it more officially starts now. So, we've got a few films that we've got to cover today. Of course, we've got to cover the big hits from the weekend. We got to cover Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu, the first new Star Wars film in about 6 or 7 years, give or take. So we'll see how that is. We'll also talk about the new horror film Obsession, which is the indie horror film that's made a ton of money for such a small budget. By a YouTuber, no less, so we'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the latest film from Boots Riley, who directed Sorry to Bother You. He has a new film that came out this weekend as well called I Love Boosters, so we'll talk about that as well. And a catch-up film from Mother's Day, The Sheep Detectives, which I know a few people wanted me to talk about, so we'll talk about it on today's stream. So a little late on some of these, just getting around to the stuff from the weekend, but usually I get much earlier screeners to talk about newer films, so if you'd like to stay up to date on the latest films, be sure to stay tuned to this channel, because we'll have a lot more coming down the pike this summer. We've got stuff like Toy Story 5, and Supergirl lined up, a whole bunch of other big stuff, and some smaller films throughout the year. And if my voice holds out, which is why I'm kind of got a cough drop to kind of get my voice ready here. If I have enough time at the end here, I will talk about a little bit of a spring cleaning that I've done by catching up on movies that I've missed from the rest of this year. And there are some fantastic films that I missed out on that I'd love to talk about. So we'll get to that as well. But yeah, be sure to check out my website, movieswithmark.com, if you want to read some reviews about the stuff we talk about on stream here. And I will get everything set up here. Kijiksana says, I was at a Pink Floyd tribute concert in Milwaukee the other night. Absolutely amazing stuff. And I think you go to a lot of concerts. Oh, it's been years since I've been to one. All right, let's see. What should we talk about first?
Great kid! Don't get cocky!
I think... So I think right too. I do have the alerts on. And there has been an uptick in subscribers, so we'll see who pops in for that. All right. So let's, might as well start off with the big one. Why not? All right, let me get stuff reoriented here. And as I get my notes up, be sure to check out the Patreon in the description below. It'll give you early access to the video essays that I make, as well as access to some exclusive writing that I'm doing on banned movies. All right, so let me get a little bit of tea here. And then we will get straight into Star Wars. First new Star Wars film in 6 or 7 years, depending on how you judge it. All right. Whew. All right. So here we go in 3, 2, 1. So Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu, is a much different type of Star Wars movie. I mean, if you look at the Star Wars TV projects we've had in the past few years, since Disney Plus started, there's been very different types of Star Wars media. We've had impressive stuff like Andor, and some less impressive stuff like the Boba Fett show, and a whole bunch of other different types of Star Wars films. And that's kind of the good and bad that I think comes with this new generation of Star Wars, is that I think it's I think there's a refreshing nature to how there can be a different type of story, instead of just being the same thing over and over and over, trying to recapture the same type of vibe from the original trilogy. That was my biggest problem with the sequel trilogy, is that at times it felt like it couldn't divorce itself, and it had to just keep being the same thing as the original trilogy. Which thankfully, the Mandalorian, the show, wasn't that. It was very much a lone wolf and cub type of show, which wasn't heavy on dialogue, was mostly about bounty hunting and exciting action sequences. And the movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, is very much more of that. And I think that's the good and bad that can be said of this type of Star Wars film. It's yeah, it does feel like just a collection of episodes from the TV show. Still pretty good episodes, but episodes nonetheless. That being said, for what the film sets out to do, it does set very lower stakes than the sequel series. Like the sequel trilogy felt like it was just trying to connect everything to try to be like the next chapter in Star Wars. And The Mandalorian and Grogu feels like it's very much just trying to be its own thing. It's trying to be essentially Lone Wolf and Cub for kids, with a whole bunch of monster battles and exciting bounty hunter sequences, and the film delivers on that front. So much like the show it's based on, the film continues the adventures of the Mandalorian, once again played by Pedro Pascal, and his pint-sized pal, Grogu, with little deviation from their format. So as bounty hunters, they make a living hunting down Imperial fugitives as the New Republic arises, and they're assigned targets by the exposition-spouting Sigourney Weaver. If you were hoping that Sigourney Weaver... she does play a little bit of a big role in the film, but not much more than just, doling out orders. So their latest target is John Coyne, who's played by Johnny Coyne, I think is his name. So their latest target, one more time with that one. Excuse me here. So oh my goodness, sorry about that. So their latest target is John Coyne, who's a sleazy crime boss and Imperial leader that the Republic wants arrested. And finding this villain will require that the Mandalorian has to work with the treacherous Hutt family, including helping out the Hutt warrior Rada, who's voiced by Jeremy Allen White, and just much like Rada has this whole arc about how he doesn't want to be compared to his father Jabba. And I think he does a pretty good job at it. I mean, he's not as ruthless as Jabba. He's more talkative, he's more understanding, and I think on a physical level, he's just way more buff. Like he brands himself as a warrior who is fighting for a criminal syndicate in these kind of like arena battles. So it's kind of impressive to see this different version of Hutt. To a much different flavor. Now, of course, the Hutts, they can't be trusted, and Mando's mission, one more time with that. So, of course, the Hutts, they can't be trusted, and the Mandalorian's mission grows more dangerous when it grows more. One more time with that. Sorry, that. So, of course, the Hutts can't be trusted, and the Mandalorian's mission grows more dangerous when vicious monsters and skilled droid assassins target him and his young one. So, a common criticism of any movie based on a TV show is the questioning of how closely this would resemble a handful of episodes. And The Mandalorian and Grogu doesn't do much to prove otherwise, considering this whole ordeal feels more like another day at the office for the faceless bounty hunter and his cute companion. Mando's concerns for his adopted kid and Rada's frustrations at being compared to his family, they rarely extend beyond just, like just peppering moments. They're just kind of like a peppering to get the story to its next stylish set piece or thrilling battle sequence. And it's a simple story that doesn't rely on the mysticism of the Force, the politics of the Imperials, or the drama of the Jedi Legacy, which works for this type of movie, but also kind of works against it. And I think that's it's kind of a shame too, because it does feel like the movie is just more or less an excuse for some cool action sequences and some interesting monster designs. And it's kind of a shame, considering there's the most charm that comes out of any character here is one that's played by Martin Scorsese, who he has a small role in this film that is too fitting to spoil here and too little to be a huge selling point. So it's a little bit of a frustrating movie, because this is a Star Wars movie for those who love lots of monsters stomping around and just causing chaos, and a lot of badass sequences where the Mandalorian is showing off his flamethrower and shooting at Imperials and blowing stuff up. So there's a fistful of fights for the kid who wants to see the Mandalorian take on a slew of nasty aliens in gladiator combat and defeat the towering beast that dwells in a murky pit of water. And most of these moments are cool for the creature designs and the engrossing music by Ludwig Göransson, which isn't afraid to dabble beyond the expected orchestral. It never felt like it was trying to replicate John Williams, which I think really worked well for this film. The problem with this movie, and it does feel more like a the big problem with this movie is that it's more of like a mindless blockbuster, which I say both affectionately and also as a little bit of a negative, because at over 2 hours there are only so many times you can watch the chomp of a toothy serpent, or the duel of very adept droids, or a hut, or the huts that are like sumo wrestling each other. There's only so much of that you can see before the visual allure just wears thin. And at over 2 hours, it really does feel like it's just kind of like running out of steam as it gets to the end of the film, and it just feels like a series of fights, good-looking fights, fights that have some fun creature designs and some nice special effects, but still, you can sense where this film is going by the midway point, and it's not really going to deviate much from that path. So, yeah, this is the big problem with this film. It's just the tank starts to run dry by the third act, even with the admirable special effects of the tiny puppet aliens and the massive droid guards, who kind of look and move as almost like stop motion figures that would have been like plucked from the 1980s. Like, there's a lot of charm to those special effects. So as a bit of like a good and a bad point, I think the easiest way that I've kind of described this film, which I've talked about many times, is that this whole movie is just Lone Wolf and Cub for kids. And I say that as both a good and bad, because it has a lot of the same framework as the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, but it also has a lot of the same weaknesses as well, where you don't spend a lot of time with the characters, and it kind of just darts from action scene to action scene without a whole lot of development. It just kind of, snaps back to the status quo, and all you're left with is a few cool fights, and not much more than that. So, The Mandalorian and Grogu accomplishes its low-stakes mission of a standalone Star Wars action-adventure movie, but doesn't really serve up much more than the theatrics. But it doesn't really serve up much more than theatrics amid its chunky runtime. Like, it never gets bogged down in Star Wars movie association, but it also doesn't rise up to the ranks of the more thoughtful Star Wars projects like Andor, which had something more to say about the politics within the saga. Now, of course, The Mandalorian is in a different lane of Star Wars, kind of like favoring its shiny helmet for action rather than exploring any of the heart and soul underneath, all like the cool looking armor. And while there's a decently rousing atmosphere to carry that stoic stance, the onslaught of action makes a better case for why the adventures of this pair were more enjoyable in smaller doses than an extended epic, where the cuteness of Grogu and the coolness of the Mandalorian's flamethrower are stress-tested to a breaking point. Passable as it may be for a matinee flick of kind of like pew-pew lasers and alien monster mash. So the film ends up kind of being okay. Like, you're not really going to get much more out of this film than just like some cool fights and some nice locations and some cool music and some nice special effects, and you won't get much more than that. You won't get the same amount of depth that you would from like the original Star Wars trilogy, but you also won't feel like you're getting like a watered down version of just the same thing over and over again. The Mandalorian and Grogu actually feels like it's trying something different, even if it just kind of ends up repeating itself by the end. So that's kind of like a matinee, mindless sci-fi action movie that you could watch with the family. It's not bad on that degree. It's got some good action, it's got a good atmosphere, and for that, I kind of appreciated the film. I would have liked a lot more characterization and stakes from the characters, but it's just, just a collection of Mandalorian episodes. It's not too bad. It's pretty fun in small doses. Yeah, it's kind of like a perfectly built, okay summer blockbuster, which might sound weird to say for Star Wars, but after like episode 9, where it just kind of tripped all over itself trying to just maintain the same type of Star Wars film, I'm glad that there's a film like this which is willing to try something new, even if it really didn't knock it out of the park. So yeah, The Mandalorian and Grogu, it's an okay sci-fi action film. So Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu will be in theaters right now. Read some of the chat here. Let's see. Scorn says, "Hey Mark, how's it going?" Pretty good. Animated 15 says, "So this Star Wars movie is a slice of life installment." it in some regards, depending on the slice you prefer. Yeah. Martin Scorsese, the guy from Shark Tale, yes, the very same. Actually, no, not the guy from Shark Tale. That weird guy in After Hours, which I think I've got over there. Do I have? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've got After Hours right there. That guy, that the Scorsese, the Shark Tale guy. Yeah, the dude from the Kodak commercials. You bet. That's the dude. Okay. What should we get to next? Should we do Obsession? I feel like we should. I might struggle through this because I have there's a lot I want to talk about with this film. But we'll see. All right, let's get some water here before I jump more into it. All right. So, here we go with Obsession. In 3, 2, 1. So Obsession is a horror film in which you have to be careful what you wish for. So it's essentially a monkey's paw situation where you make a wish and then it turns out that it's kind of an evil wish because you didn't consider all the angles here. Now, it seems like a pretty common horror movie framework, but the way that I think the best thing that can be said of this film is what makes its premise work so well is that it is just the acting. The acting alone is what makes this film so impressive with its premise, which could have just felt like a standard Twilight Zone type style type of story, and thankfully it isn't. It feels like it's really getting under your skin. It's really making you creeped out and really making you fearful of what happens with this weird development of a wish gone awry. So the premise of the story is that Michael Johnson plays Bear, who's a music store employee who's just like, he's so desperate to ask out his best friend Nikki, played by Indy Navarrete, and he's just like, he can't bring himself to do it. He stalks her social media, even though he hangs out with her, but he just can't build up the confidence to ask her out. And he's so frustrated, he doesn't know what to do. And then when going into this mystic shop to try to find like a good necklace for her, he comes across this wishing willow little product where you essentially make a wish and you snap it and then it comes true. So he decides, why not? I'll give it a shot. I'll just, if worse comes to worse and nothing works out with Nikki, maybe he can make a wish and everything will work out. So he tries to make an attempt to ask Nikki out. It goes awry, and just in his frustration, just immediately snaps and says, I wish that Nikki loved me more than anybody else in the world. And it happens almost instantly. And Nikki goes from just being this, typical friend that you hang out with at the bar on trivia night to just being someone who feels so terrifyingly obsessed with you. Hence the title of the film. Now Indy's performance. One more time that. Now Inda's performance here as Nikki is it's so perfect because when you get right up close to her face, she has this kind of like almost this unhinged smile to her where you feel deeply uncomfortable around her. But when she backs off, like when she's in the distance, like when she's when she's obscured in the shadows, that's when she's even more terrifying. Because like the moment that Bear makes this wish, you see her like just in the distance, which is when she's like backlit and she's just like a silhouette, and just the way that she just stands there, just looking directly at Bear, is just so creepy. Because at first, for Bear at first it's a dream come true. Like Nikki wants to come home with him. They end up sleeping in the same room. They end up staying together. But there's always something off in this relationship. There's always a moment where Nikki kind of reverts a little bit, where she snaps out of it and she's just like, oh my god, what is happening? I'm stuck in a trance, help me. And then she'll just like snap back to being like, okay, it's fine, Bear, I'm here for you. I love you more than anybody else in the world. And the way that just that Nikki becomes just so possessive of Bear, just starts to worry his other friends, like Ian, played by Cooper Tomlinson. It kind of tries to encourage Bear, but it's just like a little creeped out by Nikki. And then you have Sarah, played by Megan Lawless, who kind of has a crush on Bear but can't really confess it either, and just feels a little bit uncertain about what is happening with Bear and Nikki at this point. And the film just gets from there. It gets wild, and a big part of that, like I said, is Navarrete's performance as Nikki, just because her grimace, her smile, her staring off into the distance, her silhouette in the distance, everything about her just makes Bear creeped out. Like even from the start, like even from that moment, like oh this is off. Like but this is what I wanted. I wanted her to love me, but this feels creepy. It's just Nikki isn't helping. She's making it more and more creepy. Especially when you figure out more of the logic behind this wish and how there really kind of isn't a way out of it. There are some ways out of it, but they're not really preferable routes. So it just kind of everything goes from bad to worse for Bear, and it takes some pretty gory, gruesome detours here and there that just makes it so much more unpredictable and maddening just to watch all this terror unfold in a toxic relationship. Now, I do kind of have some issues with this film in terms of how it sets up the power dynamic, and it feels like the film spends a little bit too much time questioning the dynamics of the wish more than I think it does at looking at the possessive nature of this forced relationship. Because I feel like there is a bigger conversation to be had about how Nikki is taken advantage of here and how it's kind of turned on its head when she's the one obsessing over Bear. So I think I almost kind of wish this film were like another hour long, because I think there's a whole other dynamic to explore about the nasty byproducts that come with Nikki being at the center of this obsession and kind of reducing her to just being more or less possessed by a version that Bear wants for this woman. It does take like, and I think this is why I'm a little bit frustrated with the film, because I wish it explored more of that, but at the same time the performances, the many scenes that work here, they work so damn well. Especially the moments that I don't want to reveal too much here, but the scenes involving Bear's deceased cat really takes a nasty turn here. So if you don't like seeing pets get murdered, this is not the film you want to see. The way that Nikki kind of like asserts herself around Bear, like when all like the friends try to like get involved or try to tear them away, or just try to get a little bit of distance from her, and the way that she just kind of like angrily stomps and tries to like work her way back into the conversation is genuinely terrifying. It's just I think those are great scenes just on an acting sense. I think in terms of the story, like I said, I think there's more you could explore with this. And it feels like the film kind of ends, it just kind of ends with like the mess just being plopped down on Nikki's lap by the end of this film. It doesn't really go much further than that. But at the same time, it's kind of a spectacularly just very gnarly mess that ends up in this film. And the performances are perfectly in tune with trying to explore the weirdness of the situation. There are so many moments where Nikki's off-kilter nature just immediately breaks scenes. There are moments where just like she will go into like screaming, horrified, just like she's gonna like bash in walls and tear doors off and just smear her feces all over everything. Moments where she's just completely unhinged, and all it takes is just like a tiny bit of dialogue for her to immediately revert and say, okay, that's fine. And just like all those like small bursts, just like you're immediately horrified, and then you immediately just kind of burst out laughing. Just like, oh God, the terror got averted very quickly here. So it really puts you on edge throughout, especially for some of the scenes. Like there's one scene where somebody is going to die. The way that it's set up, the way that it's framed, you can tell that Nikki is going to kill somebody. And the way that she does it, I don't want to spoil who it is or how it happens. I will just say it involves a brick. And it involves a body part getting smashed against that brick multiple times. Like an absurd amount of times. You would not believe how long the scene goes on for. And I kind of dig it. I think, Inda Navarreta's performance here is it is incredible. Like it's a stunning performance. I think that is on the level of something like Possession, where you're watching this woman descend into madness. Like it's on that same level of just this unhinged woman in a relationship where she it feels like where she doesn't have control, but she's trying to assert as much dominance over it as she can, and then just watching Bear freak out about it and just realizing how horrible a mess he's gotten himself into. Not to mention that there's also a few offbeat moments regarding the wish logic. Like there's apparently like there's a shop that sells it, but like they're pretty cool with it. There's a number that you can call to address concerns, even though there really isn't much they can do about it. So I really dug the attention to detail here, and in a way that doesn't feel like it's diverting much to the plot, where it's posed in a way where it doesn't feel like they're too obsessed with the logic of the wishes. Because I've seen films like this where they become so obsessed with the wish logic that it diverts from any good performances or any truly scary scenes here, which I'm thankful for. Just Obsession is just, it's such a bizarre and very discomforting film where I think the acting really sells it, and it really creeps you out about this strange power dynamic in what could have been a fairly standard be careful what you wish for type of story. And it thankfully isn't that forgettable, especially for such a very small budget film. There are some spectacular shots, and I especially love the way that Nikki is lit in this film, especially in the darkness, where you can always see a little bit of her face, or she's blending into the background just a bit, where you always feel like you have to keep your eyes on her, but you also kind of want to look away because you don't want to get caught in her gaze and just feel that you're that trapped as Bear in the moment there. So yeah, Obsession is just a very, very creepy film with some fantastic performances, and just I dug the hell out of this movie. So Obsession should still be playing in theaters. It's doing remarkable right now. I think it's already made over $100 million on a budget of less than $1 million. So fantastic stuff. Go check it out if you haven't. So let's see. What do we got in the chat here? Scorn says, I'm looking forward to Masters of the Universe next week. Yep. That's on the docket too. There's a few films on the docket that I got for next week. One is, Masters of the Universe. And then the other we've got is Pressure, which is a film about the President Eisenhower during D-Day. So it'll be interesting to see that. Not exactly a film you'd expect for summer, but I've heard plenty of great things about it. So we'll see. We'll see how well that turns out. And there's a few others. I think Power Ballad is coming up. That'll be up as well. And Disclosure Day, got that coming up as well. Oh, and Toy Story 5. So those are for sure going to be covered next month. So there's all that to look forward to. Rhodey NT says, now that you mentioned Twilight Zone, it sounds like the episode The Chaser. It kind of is, yeah. There are a lot of Twilight Zone episodes like that where they're, be careful what you wish for. It's like, I remember there's, I don't think it's the one I'm thinking of, but it's the one where the dude becomes immortal and he has to serve a lifetime sentence in prison for what he has done. And because he's immortal, he's just like, man, that means I'm going to spend my entire life in prison. How do I get out of this? And it's like, well, the devil comes and says, yeah, I'll take your soul if you want, but you're going to end up in hell. So yeah, get what you pay for, which is your soul. Let's see. Scout9329 says, I just got back from watching Obsession and I Love Boosters alongside the Sheep Detectives in what I described as triple feature from hell. What a combo. Well, at least two of those movies are about death. Obsession and the Sheep Detectives. So I could kind of see. I'm trying to find a connective tissue there, but I don't think there is. I guess they all address some type of terror in some way. I mean, I Love Boosters is about like capitalism terrorism. So Escape Clause. That's the episode. Yeah, that's the one. Rodian T says, in The Chaser, the guy buys a roofie from the devil and gives it to a girl that isn't interested. Oh yeah, that's pretty much the same deal. Yeah. I'll see how you do in Castlevania. Yeah. All right. Hydrate a little bit here because we got two down. We got two down, and then I'll open it up here for a few films that I've caught up with. All right. What's next? We have I Love Boosters, of course. Just turn that off there so I can see a little bit through there. Sorry, I'm trying to peer through a bunch of windows. All right. Let's get to I Love Boosters here. Let's get some water in addition to that tea. All right. Okay, here we go with I Love Boosters in 3, 2, 1. So, I Love Boosters is a new film from Boots Riley, and once more he wields anti-capitalist satire on a level that feels like a subversive underground comic book brought to life. Now, this is a much grander project because it takes aim at a larger target in the fashion industry, but it doesn't reduce it to a single shot. Instead, it aims less like a sharp sniper. It aims less like a sniper rifle and more. One more time with that. It aims. Yes. It aims less like a sharp rifle and more like a missile launcher. It's also just a bonkers and colorful movie in its wacky production design and absurd twists, making for a movie as unpredictable as it is visually intoxicating. So the Boosters are a trio of shoplifters led by the weary designer Corvette, played by Keke Palmer, and she's disillusioned with the fashion industry, and mostly because she can't break into it. So she decides to team up with Sade, played by Naomi Aki, and Mariah, played by Taylor Page, to swipe an abundance of expensive clothing and resell them to poorer communities at a lower price. Now, while the film doesn't shy away from the good they do for struggling communities, especially with the Boosters hiding out in a shutdown restaurant, it also highlights the hilarity of such an operation. So distractions become a key factor in these many heists, but the lack of employees at the many retailers makes it relatively easy to just walk out with dozens of items just shoved up your outfit here. So they just like kind of walk out all bulky with all the clothes they steal. And I guess the other thing I should mention too here is that, because it's Boots Riley, whose previous film was Sorry to Bother You, much like that movie, this film, it does have a very surprising twist here, which I will not spoil because it is too good to spoil with mere words. You have to see it to believe it. But also, like that movie, the group also uses a tactic to seem more white, that again, too ridiculous to explain here. It's another ridiculous and cartoonish means. It's one more time of that. Like, it's such a cartoonish way that like black people try to act white that is again too ridiculous and funny to reveal here. So there are plenty of strange characters thrown into this quest for cloth and revenge on the corporations that dictate our necessity. One more time of that. One more time, I don't think so. So there are plenty of strange characters thrown into this quest for cloth and revenge on the corporations that dictate our necessity. Demi Moore plays the fashion elite Christine Smith, looking and speaking basically like Cruella de Vil fused with Andy Warhol, and she's driven by an egotistical desire to manipulate the world into being her canvas. Like, she keeps saying that to, stress her point, just like, I'm an artist and I need to make the world my canvas. And of course the good pushback here is like, well, maybe people don't want to be your canvas, which is a great little comeback from one of her lackeys. Lakeith Stanfield pops up again here. You might remember him from Sorry to Bother You. He's in this film as an unnamed love interest for Corvette with a warped one more time about that. Sorry, I garbled there. Lakeith Stanfield pops in as an unnamed love interest for Corvette with a warped secret that doesn't get revealed until the film's mind-blowing sex scene, which is once you get to that moment, it abruptly and hilariously switches genres between coitus. So it kind of goes from like a very romantic and erotic scene to pretty much like a horror movie, like a monster movie at that point. Another good addition to the cast here is Don Cheadle, in an almost unrecognizable role as the lecturing Dr. Jack, who is a man that is all about building up community until his scheme becomes obvious from his ridiculous diagram, which makes it pretty clear it's a pyramid scheme. Poppy Leo eventually joins the Boosters, and while she is one of the more sympathetic and relatable characters for her plight, she also arrives with just one of the many sci-fi additions that changes the dynamic of this shoplifting ensemble. So there's never a dull. One more time that. So yeah, there's never. One more time that. There is never a dull moment in Riley's wild world of exaggerated design. I mean, clothing is impractically elaborate. Colors just pop from every surface, and buildings are like slanted in a manner that is artistically self-indulgent for the characters, yet refreshingly expressive of the vocal themes. To an oddly eccentric tune. One more time that. Goodness. All right, one more time that. To an oddly eccentric tune, the film finds so many angles that it never settles on a routine and constantly just throws you curveballs. Like, consider the retail stores that Corvette and her crew lift from. I mean, they're embracing an obnoxious uniformity of a single color that constantly shifts, including it shifts with the aggravating store manager played by Will Poulter, who just, he's great at playing villains here, but he just meshes into the stylish villain who is all about fashion that you just love to hate so much in this film. So there's also a scrappy charm to the visual effects in how the movie uses stop motion and miniature techniques that not only add visual charm, but also fit the otherworldly quality of the uproarious allegories and fantastical elements. And without giving too much away, this is a movie where the heroes figuratively and literally speed up a worker revolt and deconstruct the industry that has wronged them. But what might be the most daring inclusion in the sensation of one more time with that. But what might be the most daring inclusion is the sensation of victory amid radicalism. The film is already such an off-the-wall fantasy for its kaleidoscopic spitting on capitalism that melts the flavorless grime with rainbow acid, but there's a more or less happy ending to all this that, while it might be a little too hopeful, it is a wholly necessary sensation that I really appreciated in this film. And what audiences wouldn't want... what audience wouldn't want to see the evil fashion designer taken down a peg, the small businesses succeed in communities that need them, and the factory workers not die in hazardous production environments? Throughout the film, there is a hallucination of a ball of worries that constantly follows around Corvette, built from overdue bills and regret. But by the time the film ends, the ball isn't gone, but it is smaller and less intimidating. And all the problems in the world, one more time. All of the problems in the world won't go away with a revolution, but it will certainly be easier to manage. So I Love Boosters is a rare gem of a movie that feels as radically essential as it is charmingly entertaining with its swirl of the surreal. Boots Riley has a gift for taking a satirical premise, slathering it with fittingly absurd visuals, and finding incredible ways to make it weirder. This potent picture of vibrant stabs with all caps art makes an experience that is equal parts eye candy and brain food. Like, Eat the Rich movies don't taste much more sweeter than this. So yeah, I love the hell out of I Love Boosters. It's another fantastic film from Boots Riley. So I Love Boosters will be in theaters for a bit, but it might not for long. It's a much smaller film, so check it out while you can. Let's read some of the chat here. Catch up on some of it here. Let's see. Let's see. Asylvania says, I love this escape clause. Good episode. Yep. Anime 15 says, I want to see I Love Boosters, but it's only shown at night, I heard. In some communities, it might be. This happens commonly with a film that doesn't have a lot of appeal, that doesn't have much spread. They tend not to have day screenings for smaller films. They tend to get shoved much more into night, so that very much might be the case. But I think it's I think last I checked, I think it's already gearing up for a VOD release soon. So if you can't see it at night, be sure to check out on digital when you can, which unfortunately might be the case. Like, it's gonna get drowned out. Enzo is tired says, hello Mark, I just want to say I love your channel. Well, thank you so much, Enzo. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really, really appreciate everyone who stops by, loves listening to movies. I need to turn off the credits there so I know where to edit there. Scout9329 says, I Love Boosters is my favorite movie of the year, and I honestly did not expect it to be as good. I did not expect it to be as hopeful as it was. Yeah, that was a little surprising, but I think for a lot of these like very films that try to push radicalism, I think that's what we need right now, because I've seen so many of these films about revolution that always end on just, well, we might not end the revolution, but we can keep it going for our kids. And it's like, yeah, that might be the reality, but can we just like have like a little bit of like showing the fruits of that victory instead of just waiting for the next generation to do it? Like that's going to be way more inspiring. Like yeah, sure. Like continuing the fight, that's being honest. But what'll really help is if, you stress like, look, here's what awaits you. Here's what you can have. Here's what's going to be coming, So that hopefulness, that's necessary. That is entirely necessary for a film like this. Yeah. That's what made me love it more. Because I thought like, okay, this is pretty good. It's got some wild twists, but yeah, that's kind of what I expected from Boots Riley. That's the type of film I wanted to see. And thankfully he ends it on a more fruitful note, Emily Bailey says, I absolutely loved I Love Boosters. I plan to go see it again tomorrow. Fantastic. It really needs some support. Because, yeah, it is up there. It's one of my favorite films this year. There's a few others I have, like Blue Heron and Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. That's up there as well. So, yeah, it's pretty good year so far. There's already like a few 5 or 4.5 star movies that are already making my list right now. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the year because you've got a few other big name directors coming up. So we'll have to see how it does. All right, we have one more film to talk about here. The Sheep Detectives. All right. Let me get the notes up here. Get some tea. And we will jump right into it. All right, here we go with the Sheep Detectives in 3, 2, 1. So the Sheep Detectives is a murder mystery where the murder is solved by a bunch of sheep. Now, there's little doubt that this charming murder mystery fused with animals will garner the comparisons of, people probably describe the film as Babe meets insert whodunit movie here. And the comparison of the Sheep Detectives to Babe, however, is warranted for more than it's just, its mesmerizing technique of portraying convincing animals that speak like humans. These sheep are not treated as an adorable flock with cute dialogue, but are instead presented earnestly as they not only solve a murder, but also confront their own denial of discrimination and mortality. And after enduring the insipidly sanitized version of the recent Animal Farm adaptation, this film was like a breath of fresh air for renewing my faith in movies with animals where they don't all have to pitch puns and, deliver poop jokes. So the ensemble of sheep is likable for more than just their fluffiness and affectionate names that are given to them by their shepherd George, played by Hugh Jackman. The lead sheep of Lily, voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, takes the most interest in George's bedtime murder mystery stories, able to deduce the killer before the final page, while the rest of the flock are still debating who the real killer is. Although wise to the ways of writing, Lily's community is based around simplistic misconceptions where death seems to exist only in fiction. Loners like Sebastian, another sheep voiced by Bryan Cranston, are scorned for being born in winter, and there are some one more time that. Loners like Sebastian, voiced by Bryan Cranston, are scorned for being born in winter, and there are some uncomfortable moments that are deemed to be demographically forgotten. One more time. Diplomatic. One more time with that. I forgot to say diplomatic. One more time with that. Okay. Loners like Sebastian, another sheep voiced by Bryan Cranston, are scorned for being born in winter, and there are uncomfortable moments that are deemed basically democratically forgotten by the stubborn elders like Sir Richfield, voiced by Patrick Stewart. And all of them can all just forget the worst aspects of this world, except for one, and that sheep is Mopple, voiced by Chris O'Dowd, and he's a sheep who realizes the truth that nobody will listen to. He knows everything that the sheeps don't want to address in their ideal fields of green. Like they'd prefer to just not think about arguments and death and just all collectively forget it. So basically, the sheep are just trying to soften the movie. Like it feels like they're trying to soften it for children, which thankfully becomes an element that they have to destroy, because the carefree days come to an end when George is found dead and murder is suspected. With the adoption of the sheep in question by questionable people, the sheep take it upon themselves to solve the murder, given that the uncertain policeman of Tim, played by Nicholas Braun, isn't the best sleuth for the job. And there are plenty of suspects on the table, ranging from George's estranged daughter, played by Molly Gordon, a nosy innkeeper, played by Hong Chow, a rival shepherd, played by Tosin Cole, and a visiting reporter, played by Nicholas Galitzine, and a vindictive butcher, played by Conleth Hill, and a secretive priest, played by Kobna Holdbrook-Smith. So the mystery itself is on par with clever murder mysteries and is knowledgeable enough of the tropes to marvel more at the mechanics than deconstruct them. And I can imagine kids will enjoy identifying more with Tim in his quest to unravel this mystery, being almost the way that he's almost like giddy to announce the killer, but he gets a little miffed when somebody else tries to steal his thunder by saying, like, I'm going to announce the killer. It's like, no, don't spoil it. I want to do it. I think kids will identify with that character. And while the mystery is stirring enough not to spoil here, there's a far more compelling tale of growing up and being honest about the world, becoming darker without growing dismal. The soft excuse for death is stripped away, but in a manner more contentful than scary, where Mopple comes off more like a quiet sage than a ranting conspiracy theorist who knows the truth. And it's surprisingly touching. It is surprisingly touching just how honest the movie becomes, whether directly in its addressing of mortality or allegorically in its focus on discrimination and communal ignorance. And that intelligence in the writing just makes the more adorable quirks of a sheep diva voiced by Regina Hall and a pair of ramming addicted rams that are brothers voiced by Brett Goldstein. It makes them all the more enjoyable, even when the film doesn't rely on these, mostly just because the film just doesn't rely on them as just punchlines. Like they get a few quirky lines in here and there, but the film isn't dependent on just the animal gags here. It actually treats them like real characters that are struggling to figure out the world. So The Sheep Detectives has far more going for it in its murder mystery than just a charming coat of sheep cuteness. For a film with slapstick moments of sheep rampaging through inns and small town jokes about underwhelming cultural festivals, there's a surprising amount of frankness and heart that even the most grown-up tales in murder mysteries would ignore. Because, it's easy to get lost in the thrill of the puzzle, to not recognize the full effects of death, but the maturity to confront it in a picture aimed at families was just it was so refreshing. I mean, the woolly exterior might be a draw, but the thought placed behind the warm surface makes this a comfier whodunit that won't talk down to its impressionable audience. So consider this movie a good starter murder mystery for children, likely to gravitate towards Agatha Christie later, even if there's a lack of sheep in Poirot's mysteries. So yeah, I think as a murder mystery, it's pretty good. But I think for the bigger story here about addressing death and the refusal to approach it, I think it's handled surprisingly well. And I think it's handled in a very mature manner where it's not just shoving death out into the open to scare children. It actually feels like it's trying to talk about death in a meaningful way and the necessity that comes with remembering it and learning from it and trying to live in a world where you realize that you could die and trying to understand the dangers and the importance of remembering those who you loved in your life instead of just forgetting them because death is too hard to handle. And I think for a film like this, which I just expected it to be a murder mystery with some cute sheep antics, and I ended up getting a whole lot more. So yeah, I didn't get just cuteness. I actually got some heart and some brains to it as well. So yeah, the Sheep Detectives is an absolutely marvelous film for families that doesn't feel like it's talking down to the children. Just an absolutely phenomenal starter murder mystery for kids. So The Sheep Detectives might be playing in a few theaters right now. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. It's a wonderful film. Reading from the chat here. Let's see. Scout9329 says, also, I like it more than Sorry to Bother You. Talking about I Love Boosters. Mainly due to the fact with how much the absurdity keeps escalating compared to Sorry to Bother You, where it stops after a point. Yeah, I think with Sorry to Bother You, it always felt like it had one goal, and it took a fun and weird route getting there. But I think, yeah, I Love Boosters, it kind of like diverges and splits into like several points that it wants to address. Like especially the big reveal in the film, I won't reveal it here, but the big reveal with like the benefactors of the fashion industry and what they're trying to sell has a lot of fantastic punchlines and a really good focus on like selling out your own people and being class traders, which is like it's absurd and it's eye-popping with the visual effects that they put over it. But when they start talking about their motivations, like, yeah, it's it's wonderful. It's the type of satire I love. Emily Bailey says, are you excited for Backrooms at all? I am. I mean, I think that's just because, you know, the smaller indie horror films, like I brought up with Obsession, I've been very much impressed with. Even like I wasn't in love with Iron Lung like everybody else was, but I looked at it, I was like, you know what? There's a pretty competent horror film in here. There's some good touches. And I would like to see more from Markiplier directing. So yeah, indie horror is taking off this year. And I think with Obsession crossing 100 million with a budget of 1 million, not even 1 million, I think it's just roughly $1 million for its production budget. It probably is $1 million with the marketing and all that, but still, it's indie horror is taking off in a huge way this year. So let's hope it keeps going. I think Backrooms looks interesting. I like the idea of liminal space. It remains to be seen how well they can pull it off in a film and not just have it just be a haunted house of, you know, office spaces, which I hope it's not. I hope there actually is a little bit more depth to it than just the freaky found footage nature of it all. Hopefully there is. Let's see. Enzo is tired says, Bryan Cranston, Maddie from Royal Space Force Wings of Oniami is the very same. Yep. Anime voice actor Bryan Cranston. He's making a comeback. Surprising. Yeah. Yes, from Across Plus, that Bryan Cranston. Enzo is tired says, all right, I got to check out the Sheep Detectives. You really do. It was a genuine surprise. I was just expecting it to be cute when I saw it on Mother's Day, and it was thankfully a whole lot more. So yeah, absolutely fantastic film. Where was I going to? Yeah, okay, there we go. Where's the? What was I going to talk? All right. So a brief little spring cleaning here. I did watch a few more films that I was trying to catch up on. I did watch Wuthering Heights, and it's okay. Like, it has the same problems that I have with a lot of Emerald Fennell's work, which is that it has like a decent satirical sting in there, but it tends to get lost in the mix of trying to establish toxic relationships and focus on the eroticism that I think it gets drowned out in there. So yeah, it has the same problems that all Emerald Fennell films have. I did watch, because everyone was telling me to go see it, Nirvana the band, the show, the movie, and I loved it. It may be one of my favorite time travel films, just because it has so much heart placed in it. The heart in that film of these two guys trying to establish themselves, and the daringness for like the guerrilla film shooting that they were doing in this movie is just brilliant. It's a film that's willing to take risks and still manages to establish characters that you care about. So yeah, it's up there with one of my favorite time travel with some of my favorite time travel movies. I also watched The Goat. Wonderful animated film. I expected, like, okay, this might be fine, but no, it was actually a really good and clever way to stage a basketball story with these type of animals, and especially with I've seen other people talk about this too, but it also has a lot of like a black filmmaking in there with how it portrays its characters and how it sets up that vibe, and I think it pulled that off pretty well. So I think that might be up there for my favorite animated film this year so far. But we'll see. We've got a few more films left in the year. Enzo says, now that you've seen Nirvana the band, the show, the movie, are you interested in watching Nirvana the band, the show? Kinda, yeah. I think for how impressive it was that I didn't watch the show, it did a good job setting it up. Where I was like, okay, now I might actually want to watch this show. It seems interesting. I like the idea. If it has as much like character chemistry between the two central guys, I think I'd love the show. So I think it's on one of my streaming services, so I'll check it out. What do we have here? Christus Brzek says, rewatched Ghost in the Shell last night. Still amazing. Hopefully the anime version. Yeah, Ghost in the Shell still holds up. Fantastic film. Looking forward to the new Ghost in the Shell TV series coming out this summer. That's going to be closer to the manga, so I'm very the manga is way more expressive, and it feels like all the other versions that got, basically they got the Mamoru Oshii style, where it's very, very muted, very a little bit too realistic with the expressions at many points. It feels like much different type of Ghost in the Shell. So to go back to, adapting more of the manga and getting that expressive style, I think it's going to make for a fun show. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a different flavor of Ghost in the Shell, because it feels like I've been getting the same type of Ghost in the Shell with the previous series that we got. Like the last Ghost in the Shell series we had, the all CGI one, that one just felt like it was trying too hard to recapture standalone complex, and it didn't work for me. So I'm hoping that this new version will be much better. Scout 9329 says, unrelated, I know it didn't win, but I would be interested in seeing you talk about Gundam at some point. I just got done watching the Essential shows, 0079, Zeta, Double Zeta, and Char's Counterattack. Yeah, I will eventually. Now, I'm debating whether I should just do the trilogy or the trilogy and Char's Counterattack. I might throw in Char's Counterattack with it because I might briefly address Zeta, because I want to focus mostly on the movies, and I know there are Zeta movies, but the Zeta compilation movies are not good, which is why I don't want to address them, because the Zeta show is much better. The Zeta compilation movies are not terrible. They're not the worst thing ever, but they're leagues. They're way behind in terms of the show for what it addresses. Let's see. Chris says, yeah, of course, anime. My only trouble is the plot is so confusing. Besides the general idea, I struggled to follow. It's a little dense. I will say that, yeah. Enzo says, is anyone going to check out To Concrete? A 2006 cult anime is getting a 4K re-release at the end of the week. Yeah, I love... I might. It's been a while since I've seen To Concrete. In fact, I think I might actually have it in my stack next to me, oh, here it is. The original release. Got it right from Sony. Do I even have the, Oh, I do. Okay. I actually have the old Hollywood Video receipt that I got because I bought it used from Hollywood Video because it was cheap. How much did I pay for that back then? It was because I know I got the deal there. Oh, $5 because it was under the 4 for $20. That's how cheap you could find if you knew where to look at video stores. You could get cheap DVDs with pretty good quality with this one too. It still holds up pretty well. But yeah, I love this this movie mostly because who is the manga artist? He did Black and White. Who was it here? Was it? I don't think it was Taiyo Matsuda. Was it? But yeah, the artist who did Black and White, which I actually read in a manga magazine called Pulp. I really liked his kind of like sketchy style there, where kind of like limbs were elongated or they're like rough lines and stuff like that. I really dug his drawing style. So to see it come to life in like that big feature length high quality movie, that was amazing. I'd be curious to see it in 4K to see how well it looks. Let's see. Krista says, I also read Neuromancer. The main plot seems to inspire Ghost Shield. Oh, yeah. For sure, Neuromancer does. Actually, another one worth reading. If you might have read it, but if you haven't, another good one to read, very much comparable to Ghost in the Shell, is Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. Snow Crash is very much on the same level. But I got to warn you, I have fun with this book, but I gotta warn you, there's a lot of dated elements in here, a lot of like obsession with Japanese culture, a bit of it's racist as well, and it's also really corny the way it's written. Like the character's name in this, the hero's name is called, I am not kidding on this, his name, and this isn't like a moniker, his name is Hero Protagonist. I'm not kidding. That's his actual name in this book. But it does, if you read it, you will see like a lot of similarities to Ghost in the Shell with how it connects with like the virtual world. So that's a good one to read. In addition to like there's a lot more from Neuromancer, but Snow Crash does have a few elements as well. Yeah, Snow Crash. Yep. Let's see. Mark, a man of taste. Many tastes. Like I've got plenty of books surrounding me. Here, if I'm as long as I'm showing off. I don't know when I do this here. We got here the Tale of Genji here. This is kind of more like the abridged version. But wait, is this the abridged version? Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah, this is the abridged. I thought it was unabridged. I thought I was gonna show off more, but no. Yeah, I've got tons of books in front of me. I've got what else do I have here? I mean. I've got an old Ann America for Ghost in the Shell, no less. But I also got what I got. So of course, I gotta have some Kurt Vonnegut on the side here. I got Breakfast of Champions. So yeah, I read books. Let's see. Yeah, what a coincidence. I had an Ann America right next to me here, with Ghost in the Shell. Let's see. Hell yeah, Willie Gibson influenced most like the cyberpunk stuff. I highly recommend Snow Crash too. Yep, talking about Snow Crash. Plenty of good inspiration there. All right, so let's get a. Let me change the window here. Let's do a quick recap of the movies that we reviewed on today's stream. I reviewed The Mandalorian and Grogu, the latest Star Wars film based on the Mandalorian TV series, and it does feel like a collection of episodes from the TV series, but still some pretty good episodes. I think it runs a little bit too long with all of its bounty hunting action and many monster designs, and its thrilling sequences of just bounty hunting and sumo wrestling huts. It's got some fun stuff, just it could have been trimmed down by about half an hour. So yeah, it's an okay summer blockbuster. I reviewed Obsession, a small horror film about a dude who makes a wish for the girl he loves to love him forever, and it goes awry. Fantastic performances, absolutely unhinged sequences that will get under your skin, mesmerizing performances, and very creepy monkey's paw horror story. We reviewed Boots Riley's I Love Boosters, which takes aim at the fashion industry with some wild and absurd twists that always keep you guessing about what's going to happen in the film. You will not believe the wild places that the film goes to. If you loved Boots Riley's Sorry to Bother You, this is just as good, if not better. So go check out that film as well. And I reviewed The Sheep Detectives, which is a cute film about sheep solving a murder mystery, but also isn't afraid to address death and mortality and discrimination and collective ignorance in a small community. And for that, it's a fantastic movie. And since I didn't really hate any of the films on today's stream, you got your pretty good pick here. You know, if you're looking for something to watch with the family, The Sheep Detectives and The Mandalorian are great choices. If you got littler kids, The Sheep Detectives might be good. If you want to see a colorful satire that feels alive with radicalism and hope, go check out I Love Boosters. And if you just want a very creepy horror film, Obsession, you can't go wrong with. So plenty of good options. So if you want to read reviews of some of the movies that I talked about on today's stream, they will be on movieswithmark.com. You can check it out there. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest movies to see if they're good or not, because I'm sure a whole bunch of you who are in the chat here were a little bit surprised that The Sheep Detectives wasn't afraid to talk about death in a more direct way, be sure that you're subscribed to this channel so that you can stay up to date on the latest movies. Also be sure to like this video so more people will figure out The Sheep Detectives if they haven't yet. Also be sure to check out the Patreon. That will give you access to some of my video essays early before they arrive on YouTube. So everybody who's a patron there will get to see those early, and the higher patrons will also get some of my movie history books. My latest one is on Saturday morning cartoons, and my next one is going to be on banned movies from around the world. So, if you don't want to go on the higher tiers, if you're on the lower tiers, you can still read the chapters as they are posted there. So there's a lot to benefit on the Patreon. Not only do you get videos, you also get books as well. You can surround yourself with books like I do as well. You can show off how cultured you are. I'll be back in about 2 weeks where we will have plenty more movies to cover. We will have Pressure, a D-Day historical drama. We will talk about the Masters of the Universe, latest He-Man movie. We will talk about Power Ballad, a film with Paul Rudd. I don't know too much about it, and I kind of want to stay a little bit in the dark there. And, of course, we've got plenty more films coming up for June, such as Disclosure Day, and Toy Story 5, and Supergirl. Plenty of big films coming up this summer, which we'll be talking about. Saturday morning cartoons. Yep, it's the history of Saturday morning cartoons, spanning all the way from the 1950s, all the way up to when Saturday morning cartoons on network television stopped in the early 2010s. So, huge chunk of history there covered. In mostly, like there's a few things I leave out, but for the most part, I try to cover a good chunk of it. So yeah, there's plenty more coming up. If you missed it, Jacob, it's okay. You can go back and watch the stream or check out the reviews when they get posted. But yeah, we've got plenty more coming up. I am working on some more essays. I'm working on one about the quartering, which you all voted for, but it's going to take a little while as I'm trying to like pursue a more playful angle with it with skits. And there's also another masculinity in movies coming up with John Wick. But I will try to cover like Gundam after that, because I know a lot of people were pulling for Gundam, and I want to try to cover that as well. So Gundam might come directly after John Wick, because I think John Wick might not be too hard to cover here. Mostly because I've been thinking about it a lot. But with Gundam, there's a little bit more I want to explore with that. Oh God, not the quartering. Trust me, like I said, it's a one and done thing I do with these profiles. So the quartering will get one video, and I'm actually trying to work up some decent skits for it, so it'll be more entertaining. I am also working on some special skit ideas for a 50K celebration. So as you might have noticed, the channel is coming. It's coming up close on 50K, and once we get on 50K, I'm going to do a special AMA stream with a few filmed skit segments that I'm gonna be posting on that live stream. So we're getting very close there. We are less than 500 subscribers away from getting to 50K. So that's probably going to be coming up in the next month or so, if not sooner. We'll see. When I drop the quartering video, it might just shoot up immediately. So we'll see. There's a lot of fun stuff coming. So be sure that you all are subscribed. Keep up to date on the channel. Be back in 2 weeks with more movie reviews. Go to my website if you want to read the latest in movie reviews when they get released, when embargoes drop. So I'll see you all in the next stream, and until next time, have a good one, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day.
Body powder that you can spray?
What? Wait, what? Hang on, we'll play one more time.
Body powder that you can spray?
Oh my god. Well, thank you so much. I'll treat you all to the shack here. Yes. Thank you so much,
what could be
Jacob.
next? Skin. I nurture my skin. No, tell everyone. Do the gold bond tingle. I nurture my skin. Foot powder spray. I nurture my skin. Gold bond. No, tell everyone. I get supple. I nurture my skin. Stay cool. Gold bond. No, tell everyone. I get supple. Man up. I nurture my skin. Gold bond. Man up. Foot powder spray. Man up. I nurture my skin. I get supple. No. Man up. Man up. I nurture my skin. Man up. No. Stay cool. Man up. I nurture my skin. Go by. Man up. No. Go by. Body powder that you can go by.
Thank you for bringing intelligent conversation back to Nerdum.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much. I forgot to mention too, if you donate over $10 or $10 or $15, I think it engages that Shaq song. So thank you so much, Jacob. Thank you for keeping the stream going just a little bit longer, and much appreciated. Yeah, we're gonna keep that intelligent conversation going. Gonna keep going with more masculinity in movies, keep more good video essays going, and more genuine movie reviews coming up here. So couldn't do it without all of you. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, Jacob, for the super chat. So I'm just gonna be sputtering at this point, so I'll cut it off here. But yeah, thank you all so much for keeping this channel going, for keeping the stream going, for keeping the intelligent conversation going. So yeah, I will catch you all next time. So here we go, Megaforce ending once again. See you later, everybody.